Welcome to Spotlight on Excellence, the show that delivers key business experts to equip you with essential business tools that will elevate your business to the ultimate level of success. I'm your host, Michael McDonough. As an entrepreneur, like many of you watching, I faced the same challenges that you've faced along the road to success. And I found that one of the most effective ways to achieve success is to model success. In other words, find someone who has blazed the path and follow in their footsteps. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just have to make it your own. Today we're focusing on taking your business from average to extraordinary with our special guest and breakthrough business coach, Michael Tertes. Welcome to Spotlight on Excellence, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here.
You know, we've been friends for a long time. In fact, I knew you when you did one-on-one coaching. And now you've taken it to more of the seminar level. What made you switch from one-on-one to seminar?
You know, that's a good question. A few years ago when I was a life coach, I was just working with individual clients, and I really felt like I was working behind the scenes. So they were in front, and I was behind, and I was their cheerleader, and I was supporting them to live the life of their dreams, to build the business of their dreams. But in a certain way, I felt really limited and kind of shackled.
What do you mean by shackled? That seems kind of jailed.
Yeah, well, it was, because I was only expressing a part of myself and a part of what I really have to offer. And so what I started to do is I started to teach classes. My first class I taught was Set Your Compass for True You, and it was a 12-week program, and it was about setting your compass for really becoming who you really are and what's possible for you. And that class really activated what I call my teacher archetype, and really unleashed a part of me that I really forgot had been there.
Well, you know, as I said, we've been friends for a while. I always thought you were a rock star. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out who you are right now because, well, let's look at this picture of us last year. I'm not sure who I am in this picture, frankly. You're a rock star.
You were the chic.
I guess I was the chic. I was from oil country, I think.
I sort of thought of you as the chic who was promoting me as a rock star.
Oh, that's right, exactly.
Do we get to tell people that this was actually Halloween, or this is just the way we hang out?
We could have said that, but we won't. We won't tell them it was Halloween. We just dress like that when we go out on the town. Well, now, though, you've become this superhero. And you're talking about people with superpowers. And I was lucky enough to be at your last superpower seminar, and you said we all have superpowers.
Yep.
How can the audience identify what their superpower is?
Okay. Well, let me start by saying what I mean by superpowers. Okay. And this really came to me very naturally. Like I said, I've been coaching for a long time. And as I started to look at what I was doing with my clients, I realized I was very specifically helping them find what's really amazing about them and what's extraordinary about them and what do they do that's unlike what anyone else does. So so to define superpowers, what I mean is it's something that you do easily, you do naturally, and like you're not even trying, and it has a massive impact. And what happens is other people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? How do you do that? And
right.
That's how you start to identify what your superpowers are.
Why don't we go to the video and take a look at that?
Okay. So the reason I'm wearing the cape here is because the cape is back. And what I mean by that is superheroes are real, and a superhero is someone who expresses their greatest gifts through their deepest values to have massive impact in the world, to have total fulfillment in your life, and to enjoy prosperity. To start talking about superpowers, we actually have to step back a little bit, and we have to talk about Smallville. So who knows where Superman grew up? Mike? Superman grew up in Smallville. And so it's a great metaphor, right? Superman's a great metaphor. And so if you go back and you read any of the comic books or you watch the movies, Superman's parents said, Clark, they called him Clark Kent. They didn't call him Superman, they said, Clark, you've got to stay here in Smallville. Your powers are dangerous. You're going to hurt people. You're going to harm people. You're going to be a target of ridicule. Your friends and family are going to be targets. So if you're out there being visible and being big, your friends and family are going to be targets from people who don't like what you're doing. So they went on and on and on and on. They said, Clark, stay in Smallville. So if you go and you watch these movies, he was miserable in Smallville because he had these powers. He could fly, he was super fast, he had x-ray vision, all this stuff, and he's like, I can't stay here. It's too small. I'm miserable. And so he did. He left Smallville, and I want to sort of say, and the rest is history, but of course it's not history. He's a fictional character. But he went out and he used his powers to do good in the world. And what he did is he followed his values. And so because of the genre, his values were truth, justice, and the American way. But each of us has our own values that where we want to leave Smallville and use our powers to express our values. And specifically I'm talking to you here today is because we're people who want to express our deepest values and our greatest gifts through our businesses, which is this amazing opportunity because the business is ours. We get to create it. We get to create a business unlike anyone else's. And we get to lead that business. It can be just us, we can be solopreneurs, or we can have a company. But we get to be the leader and we get to create this. And when we create it through our greatest gifts and our deepest values, we create something magnificent that's of incredible value, not just to us, but for the world.
And we're back. So you talked a lot about Smallville. The question, though, is how do you get out of Smallville?
Okay, so the thing about Smallville is it really is like living somewhere. It's got boundaries, it's got limits. And the first thing you need to do is want to leave Smallville. And so let's say, and to leave Smallville, the first thing you need to do is like chart a course for something else. You need to set a goal. Say, I want to make more money. I want to have a greater impact. I want to enjoy my life more. So that's the first thing, is set a goal.
All right, we talk about setting goals a lot here at Spotlight on Excellence. What else could we do?
Okay, so then once you've set a goal, what that's going to happen is you're going to come up against what people call fear. You're going to be like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I haven't done that before. That's something new. And you need to learn, how do I move through my fear? And I love what one of my teachers said, is fear is false evidence appearing real.
I've heard that.
We've heard that. And as we move into our fear, let's say I've decided I need to do more public speaking.
Right.
And I'm afraid of public speaking, let's say. And
most people are.
Yeah, and the first time I ever spoke in public, my knees shook so badly that someone actually came up behind me and held my knees so that I would stay standing up.
I remember my voice trembling the first time I did.
Yeah, so we need to step into our fear and realize that when we take those steps into the things that we're afraid of, things that we're nervous about, by taking that step, they actually become less scary than they actually were.
Wow, that's great. Well, let's go to that segment of the video, and when you're talking more about Smallville, we want to go back to the video and see what he has to say.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about Smallville. So what's it like for you? What's your Smallville like? If you're, and here's what I'm gonna say. All of us live in Smallville. I still live in my version of Smallville. And so what's it like when you're in Smallville, when you're not using your greatest gifts, when you're not expressing your deepest values? What's it like there? What's it like to live there?
Survival.
Okay, so it feels like survival, like I'm just getting by. What else? Depression, I call it the disses. So depression, despair, discouragement, distraction, disconnected, exactly. Yeah. Disgusted. Yeah, totally.
Uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable. And I'm glad you said that, because some people call Smallville the comfort zone, and it is not comfortable. It is familiar, but not comfortable. And so, Raylene? Not authentic. We're not being ourselves. When I went into my corporate job, I had to leave a big part of me behind every day. People didn't know I loved to dance. They didn't know my interest in music. They didn't know that I had a spiritual practice and I did yoga and all these things, and they didn't even know my wife's name or my kid's name. I had to go in and be a corporate web strategist. And I had to talk about value chains and blah, blah. I can't remember what it was anymore. So yeah, it's inauthentic. What else?
Unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled. Even worse, hopeless. So yeah, it's unfulfilled. So that's what Smallville is. And I also want to thank you for participating there because this is the part that's very real, is that we actually, most of us in some part of our lives are living in Smallville. And it's all those things. And I'm glad, Summer, that you said comfortable, because like I said, a lot of people call it uncomfortable, right? So a lot of people call it the comfort zone, and it's not comfortable. It's all these things. It's all these things that are actually sapping the life out of us and making us miserable. And so so what I call is the land of the familiar. So Smallville is the land of the familiar. It's familiar thoughts, familiar feelings, familiar actions, familiar relationships, familiar distractions, internet, drinking, movies, TV, like whatever it is that we distract ourselves from, all those feelings. And so that's that. And we even live in a culture that prides itself on living in mediocrity, so that we distract ourselves into living in mediocrity. So I'm going to stand against that, and I'm going to stand for living an extraordinary life, which takes leaving Smallville. So now let's get to superpowers, and we're going to get there in a new way today. We're going to get there through, I put a handout on the table. I'm going to ask you guys to pick that up. So this is a tool I've developed that I use with my private clients, and I just started speaking publicly about it. And I don't know why I've been hiding it. It's this amazing thing. So I want to share it with you. And so these are particular tools and techniques I've developed over the years that are really working for my clients and making a difference in their lives. So I call this the freedom cycle because I believe that superheroes are fighting for freedom. We're fighting for our personal freedom, our freedom of choice, our freedom of expression, any freedom, our freedom to be who we are. So that's why I call this the freedom cycle. And if you follow it, it will actually lead you, if you keep following the cycle around and around, because it keeps going around, it's not like it ends, it will lead you to freedom. A life of freedom, a life of prosperity, of fulfillment, of expression. So I'm going to get to superpowers in the middle of this. So the first thing in the freedom cycle, the first step to leave Smallville is to get real. And what I mean by get real is be soberly honest with the circumstances of your life. Like, don't hide from them. Like, really look at them. So today we're talking about business. So, I work with people in all parts of their life, but today we're talking about business. So you look at your business and you look at it really, and you go, do I enjoy my business? Do I like the amount of money I'm making? Am I having the impact I want to make? Am I being fulfilled in my business? Am I providing a service that I'm really proud of? You ask yourself lots of questions, and you very soberly and honestly assess what's real in your life around your business. And so that's the first step, is to get real, because if you don't know where you are, you don't know you don't know where you're going. So that's step one. Step two is then, I call these the 5 gets. So step 2 is get who you really are. And when I say get here, I mean understand. Come into relationship with who you really are. And my stand, as I said, is we're each completely unique. So it's the process of getting your uniqueness. And so I'm going to give you a tool here to start identifying your uniqueness. I call it the alive list. Anything that brings you alive, gives you joy, gives you a sense of hope, gives you a sense of potential, optimism, joy, that's coming alive. So I'm going to ask you to do is start keeping a list called your alive list. And you can do it on your computer, you can take a piece of paper. I was actually going to bring you guys one, and I ran out of time. The printer wasn't moving fast enough. So you just start listing, this brings me alive. So for me, backpacking. For me, dancing. For me, meditating. For me, doing yoga. For me, hanging out with my 11-year-old daughter and playing Clue. For me, speaking in public. For me, teaching. like all these things. So keeping an alive list. And as you track the things that bring you alive, you go, I want to do more of those. And instead of looking at the stuff that's not working, you just go, I want more of what is working. I want more of what is alive. And I want to give you a little pointer here, is not everything that brings us alive is easy and comfortable. In fact, a lot of the things that bring us alive take effort, they take determination, they take dedication, they take commitment, and they take getting out of that comfort zone. They take leaving Smallville, crossing the line that one of my coaches calls the terror barrier. We're terrified to do something new, to do something different. But when we cross that terror barrier, which actually, who here saw Finding Nemo? There's this scene where he goes through the ring of fire, and it's, and they're all chanting, and he's totally terrified to swim through this thing, and they're going, I don't know, they're chanting, they're going like, oh, 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 oh. And he swims through and he goes, bloop, and he's on the other side. That's mostly what going through the terror barrier looks like, is just bloop. We're suddenly done something we've never done, something we've been scared of, something we felt uncomfortable about, and suddenly we go through and like, that wasn't so bad. In fact, I feel great. So I want to, so in your alive list, make sure you track things that you've done where you've actually confronted a fear, where you actually, once you've done that, you feel bigger, you feel better, you feel stronger, you feel like you've brought more of you with you. So that's knowing who you really are. The other part of knowing who you really are your superpowers. And your superpowers are the things that you do easily and effortlessly, like you're not even trying, and other people think they're a miracle.
When we were at your superpower seminar, you talked about taking the superpower pose.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty great. So show me your superpower pose.
Okay. Well, this is, okay, so everyone can actually do this, and you can do this on camera. Can I stand up? Okay. So this is the superpower pose, and it's actually a power pose. And I got this from a TED Talk, and really got that this is a true thing. So when you take a power pose, so your shoulders back, your chest out, standing strong, yeah, like that. This is the superhero pose, right? Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they all do this. And it turns out that standing in a powerful way, or sitting in a powerful way, if you sit with your hands behind your head and your feet up, and you feel powerful, that by sitting like that, it actually creates the feeling of power in your body, and you start to feel more powerful. So actually the recommendation is to stand in a superpower pose for 2 minutes every day, and you will in fact start to feel more powerful in your life. So ready, try it with me. Ta-da!
That must be why my mom always told me to sit up straight.
It is, in fact. Sitting up straight is actually feeling powerful.
So when do you think an entrepreneur should strike the pose?
Well, it's really, to strike the pose is really something, this is practice. It's developing your experience of internal power and power in your life. So it's not the kind of thing you want to, you're in a meeting and go, hi. You don't want to do it like that. What you want to do is at home in the morning or in the evening, strike the pose for a couple minutes, walk around the house in a superhero pose. And it's really about developing your internal experience of power so that when you're out there in the world, you just feel more powerful and you act more powerful. The only thing in our way is us. It's the only thing that's in our way. We're not victims, we're not martyrs, we're not children, there's no one here to take care of us. Is the only thing in the way of getting what we want is us. And it leads to our beliefs about who we are. It leads to actually putting your energy into identifying who you are, developing who you are, figuring out what those beliefs are, what those ways of being that get in your own way.
Right.
So that was what I learned, and it's really been the thing when I get to any point in my life where I think, this can't happen, or this is impossible, I think, wait, if I back up from this, it's because I've decided this is as far as I can come. And that's the thing that's in my way. Well,
let me share with you how I have put that into practice with my own life.
Sure.
I use the ski slope as an analogy. When I was taking my son as a young teenager skiing, I told him that if you find something that makes you fearful, like a black diamond ski slope, when I find a black diamond ski slope, I have got to ski it. I have got to face my fears because I don't want myself to be the one getting in the way.
And what we can do is look at our lives as black diamond ski slopes.
All right.
And we're looking down and we're going, how am I stopping myself from going down this ski slope? And what powers can I bring in to navigate this black diamond so that we get to the bottom and we've won? Then there's this thing called you that's in your way. So you got to get out of your own way. Because the truth is, and I've learned this because this is like from my own personal experience, I watched myself be in my own way for many, many, many years. And then when I got out, I was like, where'd that guy go? And so when you get out of your own way, you begin to get more of what you want. So again, 2 tips for getting out of your own way. There's 2 ways we get in our own way. One is, who's got a voice over here that's going blah, 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 blah. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're too tall. You're too short. You're too fat. You smile too much. Just one? Yeah. So what I call this is the internal arch nemesis. So it's the part that's keeping our superhero down. So the first is to get that that's exactly what that is. It's an internal arch nemesis. And you want, and once you start to get that that's what it is, it's actually not you, it's just a part of you that's keeping you down, then you can, I teach an entire course on how to get out of your own way. But that's the tip, is to know that any negative thoughts, judgments, or discouragement is your internal arch nemesis. You can just start name. Negative thinking, judgment, discouragement. Anytime any of those thoughts come in, you can just say, internal arch nemesis, that's not really me. Then the other way we get out of our own way is we hang out with kryptonite. Who knows what kryptonite is?
Toxic people.
It's what keeps Superman weak. And so toxic people, so toxic relationships, toxic people, toxic food, toxic environments, toxic jobs. We hang out with things that sap our energy because our internal arch nemesis keeps us there. And so one way out is to literally look at where is my energy leaking? And make a decision not to do that anymore. So I'm working with a cartoonist, and it's a picture of Superman sitting on a couch, and he's got the thought bubble, and it says, why do I feel so lousy? And he's sitting on the couch, and he's eating kryptonite snacks, and he's watching kryptonite TV, and he's reading kryptonite news, and he's got a kryptonite relationship, and it's like just sapping his energy. So are you going to stop hanging out with kryptonite? You're going to stop inviting kryptonite into your life? That's how you start getting out of your own way. So then the last step is to get into action. And action is where the spiritual rubber meets the road. Everything we've done to this moment, all these steps, don't mean anything until you take action. And so when you look at your alive list, and when you look at your superpowers, and when you look at your values, when you get into action, you just start with one thing. It's like, what's the next thing, one step I can take? Because that's all you can do is one at a time. You take that action. And actions can be what I call active actions, like going somewhere, getting a coach, taking a class, quitting a job, all kinds. Those are, and there's also inactive actions, like stopping doing something, like not watching another TV show at 4 a.m, or not buying another thing on eBay. So I studied systems theory and cybernetics in graduate school, as I said, and one of the things you learn is that action and inaction both have impact. And so you get to start looking at both your action and your inaction as actions, as things that have impact. So the last thing is take an action. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do right now is just sit for just 10 seconds and close your eyes and think of out of this conversation we've had today, what's one action that you can take? It can be very small, very simple, but just one action you can take to leave Smallville and to become more of the superhero that you are. We really have a choice about the legacy we're going to leave. We really have a choice about how we're going to be remembered. And when you're not living, expressing your best, your superpowers, your gifts, when you're not expressing those, when you follow that out, the legacy you leave is much smaller and very different than the one you would leave if you actually stand in your greatest gifts and express your greatest gifts. So this is the way I describe it. Is when I say being your legacy, is the first thing we need to know is, who are we? What are our greatest gifts? Why are we here? What service do we have to offer? Who are we here to serve? What impact do we want to have? So that's the first thing, is to know who you are, your being. And then you express your being through your doing.
Okay, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
As we end the show each time, if there was one thing from a mentor, something you've developed over time, it doesn't matter, one thing that has been most responsible for your success as an entrepreneur that you can help our audience with, what would that one thing be?
Okay, that's great. Really the one thing that I would want to share with people is that you are completely unique. There will never be anyone like you. There's never been anyone like you. And that uniqueness is important. It's critical. In fact, that uniqueness, so superpowers, gifts, the life you've lived, all the experience you've had, all that uniqueness together and expressing it, it's the key. It's the key to your impact in the world. It's the key to the service and what you have to offer the world. It's the key to your personal fulfillment and joy and like actually digging this life. And it's the key to your prosperity. It's the thing that uniqueness is what people want. It's the thing they want to pay for. It's the thing that has the most value. That's what I want to share.
Very good, very good. Thanks again for being with us today. And for all of you out there watching, be sure to visit www.envisiontv.com for more information about Michael Tertes. That's the letter N, visiontv.com, for more information about how to make your business work for you just as hard as you work for it. And remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, just make it your own. And we'll see you next time on Spotlight on Excellence.